mirror of pain, seeing who you truly are. A Stoic story, written in the voice of Limitless mindset. Pain is a mirror, not a punishment, not a curse, a mirror. It doesn't show you who you wish to be. It shows you who you are. Beneath the calm surface, beneath the rehearsed confidence, beneath every mask you wear to make life look easier than it feels. Most people spend their lives running from pain. They drown it in noise, hide it in distraction, cover it with the smiles they post for strangers. But you can't hide from something that lives inside you. Pain waits, quietly. It doesn't chase you, it just watches. Until the moment you stop running long enough to meet its eyes. And when you finally look, really look, you see yourself. Not the version the world claps for, the version that trembles, the version that doubts, the version that has nowhere left to go except inward. That's when the mirror begins to speak. Pain asks you questions, comfort never will. It asks, who are you when nothing goes your way? What values survive when the applause stops? What remains when everything that made you feel important is stripped away? The Stoics called this the practice of seeing life as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, pain doesn't define you. Your response does. The mirror doesn't create your reflection. It simply reveals it. When you're in pain, you meet parts of yourself that success could never introduce you to. You meet your impatience. You meet your fear. You meet your hunger for control. And then if you stay long enough in that space, you meet something deeper, your strength. Because strength doesn't appear when you demand it. It emerges when you have no other choice. It's not loud. It's not proud. It's the quiet decision to keep breathing when everything inside you wants to quit. That's what pain teaches. Endurance with dignity. The world romanticizes healing as if it's soft, beautiful, and quick. But healing, real healing, is brutal honesty. It's sitting in front of the mirror of pain and saying, this is what I've become, and this is what I still need to face. It's not a journey of becoming someone new. It's a journey of remembering who you were before fear rewrote you. The Stoics never said to love pain. They said to respect it, because pain is the only teacher that speaks without words. It strips away illusion until only truth remains. Think about it. When life is easy, you don't question much. You accept comfort as normal. You assume strength because nothing challenges it. But when pain arrives, when the job falls apart, when the person you love leaves, when health fades or dreams die, the mirror appears. Suddenly, everything false begins to crumble. And that's terrifying, but it's also sacred because what's left after the crumble is real. Pain is the furnace of identity. You enter fragile, uncertain, shaped by expectation. You leave forged, clear, grounded. There's a story told in many philosophies about the sword that must pass through fire before it's ready for battle. The Stoics would have smiled at that because they knew fire doesn't destroy the sword, it defines it. In the same way, pain doesn't destroy you. It defines you. The difference lies in how you stand within the flame. Do you curse it, or do you let it purify you? The mirror of pain is uncomfortable because it doesn't flatter. It reflects every piece of ego you still cling to, every belief that your worth depends on others. It shows you where your peace still relies on control. That reflection is hard to face, because it's easier to blame circumstances than to confront your own attachments. But growth doesn't come from denial. It comes from acceptance. From looking into that mirror and saying, Yes, this hurts, but it's teaching me something I wouldn't have learned otherwise. That's courage, not to escape the reflection, but to study it. Every wound, every heartbreak, every failure is a mirror angled differently. Each one shows you another layer of yourself. Some reveal your sensitivity, some your pride, some your capacity for forgiveness. The wise don't collect wounds as reasons for pity. They collect them as lessons for perspective. Pain doesn't shrink the wise, it expands them. When Seneca wrote about adversity, fire tests gold and adversity tests the brave. That wasn't poetry, it was instruction. The test isn't to prove your worth to the world. It's to remind yourself that worth was never the question. Pain doesn't remove value, it reveals it. We live in a culture that tells us to move on quickly, but the Stoic way is slower, quieter. It says, sit with it, not to suffer needlessly, but to listen. Because pain, when you sit still enough, begins to translate itself. It tells you what you loved too much, what you feared too deeply, what you resisted letting go of. And if you're brave enough to hear it, you start to see clearly, maybe for the first time in your life. Sometimes the mirror shows you that you're not as patient as you thought. Other times it shows you you're far stronger than you believed. Both truths are valuable. Both deserve your attention. The mirror doesn't judge, it simply reflects. It's your ego that interprets the image as failure or victory. Pain has no agenda, it just tells the truth. And the truth, though painful, is liberating. Because once you see who you are, you can finally choose who you want to become. Mirror years later and see things differently. You'll realize the pain you once cursed was the doorway to the person you needed to become. You'll thank the storm for forcing you to build shelter within yourself. That's growth. That's awakening. That's the purpose of the mirror. Pain also teaches empathy. When you've sat in darkness long enough, you start recognizing it in others. You stop judging so quickly. You start listening more deeply because you know how heavy it is to smile while breaking. You know how it feels to hold tears in your throat and still say, I'm fine. Pain turns you from critic to companion. It breaks the illusion of separation. It teaches that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. That understanding, that gentleness is wisdom. The Stoics didn't believe in avoiding emotion. They believed in observing it. Pain observed becomes knowledge. Pain resisted becomes suffering. When you observe pain, you begin to understand its language, how it points you toward what matters. You learn that what hurts most often highlights what you value most, and that realization brings alignment between your values and your choices. Pain then isn't chaos, it's guidance. Rough, unfiltered, but honest guidance. The mirror of pain doesn't flatter the ego, but it nourishes the soul. It invites you to stand naked in truth, stripped of excuses, stripped of illusions, and simply be. To see yourself clearly is terrifying at first, but once you do, you'll never trade that clarity for ignorance again. Because nothing feels freer than knowing who you are. That's the ultimate reward of facing the mirror, freedom through self-knowledge. And here's the paradox. Once you stop running from pain, it loses its power to chase you. It becomes an ally. It sharpens your awareness, strengthens your resilience, and deepens your compassion. When you accept the mirror, you stop fearing your reflection. You realize that every painful moment was simply trying to return you to yourself. So the next time life hurts, pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't drown it out. Stand still. Look into the mirror. Ask yourself, what is this pain showing me about me? You might see fear. You might see strength. You might see both. Whatever you see, honor it. That image is the raw material of wisdom. That's where transformation begins. The mirror of pain is not your enemy. It's your oldest friend, the one that never lies. When you can look into it without turning away, you'll realize something profound. You were never broken. You were being revealed. And what you find in that revelation, clarity, humility, endurance, grace, is the essence of who you truly are. Closing reflection. Pain doesn't show you what's wrong with your life. It shows you what's real about it. And once you've seen yourself through the mirror of pain, you'll never again mistake comfort for peace or suffering for failure. Because the one who can face their own reflection